Hello and welcome to Mediumship Matters with me, Hannah McIntyre. How are you doing? I am so bloody busy, guys. I started doing readings again after I threw the gauntlet down for myself, but now I remember part of why I had to stop doing them because trying to record a podcast, teach, organise demonstrations for next year. Yeah, I can't do it all. And I'm so sorry it's been so long between episodes. The only reason I'm able to record today is because I've herniated a bloody disc in my back from Pilates. I went to Pilates because the instructor said, give back to your body. And I went to give back to my body, and my body went, fuck you. And now I've been unable to go to the gym, which, as you know, is really good for my mental health. Yeah, but on the flip side, it means I can record because I've got a bit of time. So isn't that lovely? Now, the trouble I've got is I am so far behind with listener questions that I can't even remember now if I've covered some of these. So I'm going to endeavour to work my way through them as much as I possibly can. But first, you knew there was a but first coming, didn't you? I wanted to ask you about the way that you are presenting your journey when you are talking about your mediumship, because I am getting a real trigger on the go because of people saying things like, Spirit told me, when what they really mean is, I didn't want to do that. And why is it so difficult to just say, I wanted to do that, so I did? Why do we have to pretend that we have no free will and choice and that it's our destiny? Because this dialogue of Spirit told me I was going to be a medium, or Spirit told me that evidential mediumship was no longer my path and that I should move into coaching, it sounds harmless, doesn't it? Except for when it's so widely used that we are indoctrinating everybody within spirituality that is the path. And when people are booking me for spiritual assessments, I find myself saying to them on repeat, the problem here is your mindset. You believe that spirit should be showing you they want you on the team by giving you a clear path, by making it easy, and you are holding back because you're facing difficulties. And this seems to be maybe a subconscious, but a thought process that so many people on the journey have. I know that I've had it. And I know that I've said this to you before, but I want to say it again. When I ask Spirit if they want me to be a medium, they never, ever, ever say yes. They say, do you want to be a medium? And I say, well, I'm not sure because it's really hard. And they say, we know. There's no comfort. There's no, Hannah, this is your predestined path. This is the journey you came here to make. This is, and I find it really frustrating that after all this time, that is still the dialogue that is being shared. And I don't think it's being consciously shared. I think people just, we feel a bit embarrassed, don't we? I had somebody say quite recently that anybody who has an audience with over 100 people in it is being led by their ego and not by spirit. And I know that person loves me, and they were somebody that I counted as a friend of mine. But I also understand the shame that made me feel for a moment, where I thought, oh my God, am I really ego-led? And then I had to sit with it and think about it. And I just thought, well, no, I just like a big buzzy audience. I'm not misrepresenting. I'm not advertising it as an intimate evening with spirit. It's an evening with me. That's what I call my nights. I don't pretend that it's anything other than what it is. And so that is it. Oh, where do I want to go with this? I don't know. I just want to say, when you are talking about things, there is no shame in saying, I decided. Spirit didn't whisper in my ear, do bigger events. I decided I wanted to try to see what they felt like. As my audiences naturally increased in size, my first demonstration on my own was 30 people, and then we tried for 40, and then we tried for 50, and then I did want to see how far I could go. But also, nice venues are expensive, and you have to make sure you have enough bums on seats to cover the bar staff, to cover the cost of the venue. So there's a lot of practicalities in that. I could have booked smaller venues. I could have paid someone else to run a small bar for me. I didn't want to. And that was my choice. But when I present it to people, I do not say, Spirit told me that it was my job to reach bigger audiences. I say I chose it. And I think that's really important. So I just wanted to start by saying, if you are sharing your experiences or talking about things, if you find yourself saying, Spirit said, just check yourself. Did they say? Are they giving you instructions? Because they're never giving me instructions. Whenever I do cards for anybody, they are never saying, this is what you must do. They are saying, these are the options you pick. You choose. Or do you not believe in free will and choice at all? I had an amazing lesson guest teacher on the Gateway this week. It was Emily and her stars, who you will know from this podcast. I'm a little bit in love with Emily. There's just something about the way she says things that yeah. Anyway, she was teaching astrology, and she brought up my chart to show my students. Now, there were lots of things in my chart about communication and here's my dog communicating for you. Lots of things about communication, lots of things about breaking down systems or changing the status quo. And everybody went, oh, ha, ha. And I went, oh, ha, ha. And then I said to Spirit, was I destined to come here and do this then? And they were like, well, you could have done lots of things with it. You chose mediumship. That has been your passion. You chose it. And that is honestly how I feel. I could have turned those skills to anything. I could have worked in the NHS and found a new way of running customers through the system. I couldn't never have worked in surgery or anything. I faint at the sight of blood. I would never have been a nurse, but I could have seen a different way. I could have worked in farming and changed the way that we deal with our crops. I don't know enough about farming. That's a really bad example, but you get what I'm getting at. So I chose those attributes, but I don't feel like this journey with Spirit, I have to keep choosing again and again and again, because it is a hard journey. It is a difficult journey. It is a challenging journey. And so please, if you're there waiting to take steps and wondering why Spirit aren't just bringing you what you want, floating in on a golden cloud, here's what you asked for. Maybe that's because you need to be part of the doing. You need to be part of the creating. Maybe you need to meet them where they are. Maybe you need to step up and prove that you want it. And maybe that's not Spirit's responsibility, but entirely yours. So if you find yourself waiting, it's time to leap. It's time to jump. When I used to teach in-person circles, I remember starting a new circle and my opening speech being, Spirit won't make this easy for you. Don't think that every Thursday night you're suddenly going to be free. Don't think that your kids won't have illnesses and need to be picked up from school, and that your car won't break down, and that you'll need to, chuck the kids some disgusting freezer tapas dinner where you feel like you've not given them enough vegetables because you won't have it in you to cook a whole meal from scratch and then turn up to circle. Because I think that we all have this idea that it should be easy. And then when it isn't, we feel like we're being rejected. But I don't think we come here for ease. I think we have moments of ease, yeah, but there are difficult things. There are hardships, there are challenges. And that should be embraced as spirit getting you ready. And the trouble with me is I talk so much now, I can't remember. And I'm so sorry if I've told you this before. And I'm so sorry that I'm always saying if I've told you this before, but it just makes me feel better to sort of disclaim everything. But I had a friend. So when I started demonstrating, I used to demonstrate with a friend, and she would do evidential mediumship, and I would do cards and spirit guide readings like I still do in my live events. But I do the whole thing now. Whereas when I was with her, she would do the evidential. And she had the most amazing connection to spirit. It was so crystal clear, so specific, way better with evidence than I am. Phenomenal. I remember her sitting down with me once and saying, Ronald McDonald. And that's what we used to call my grandfather. His name was Ronald, but we called him Ronald McDonald, like McDonald's. You can see what we did there. It was ingenious, yeah? But that's something I really connect with him. One of the few pictures I have of my grandfather is one I took of him wearing a McDonald's hat that we obviously took from McDonald's and made him wear. So that was a really amazing piece of evidence for me. And what happened was we had these evenings, and I would do the spirit guide readings and the card readings, and she would do the evidential. And then I would be jealous of her evidential abilities. And I loved my friend. So I'm really glad that as far as I recall, I never let the green-eyed monster ruin my relationship with her. But God, did I want to do evidential? And God, did I buy into the belief system that if evidential was meant for me, spirit would bring it. And I mean, for years, I waited for them to tell me it was okay to do this, and feeling guilty, like I was saying that spirit guides weren't enough, and feeling like I was being greedy and I should leave some for other people, and all of these stories that I told myself. And one night we went for a pint after the dem. And we always used to have this saying that whoever made the most people cry, the other person would have to buy the beer. And I was buying the beer, and we were at the bar, and there was somebody there that I was a friend of a friend that I knew. And she was talking to me, and she said, "Oh, yeah, yeah, good, Hannah, very good." And then she went, "Oh, but Abby, bloody hell. To have a gift like yours, that's so incredible. What a life-changing, amazing gift." And I felt like I'd been slapped, like somebody actually saying how I felt right in front of me, like her gift was better than mine, like her ability was more useful than mine. Now, I know that that's rubbish now, but that just shows how much I wanted evidential. Was that enough for me to sign up for a course to learn how to do evidential? No, it wasn't, because I am nuts. So I just waited, and I said, Spirit, if you want me to do evidential, show me. And they didn't. And then eventually, after months of crying and heartache and pain, I booked myself onto an evidential course, and I could hear my guides cheering in my head, just so you know, not out externally. And I went, "So you do want me to do this?" And they went, "Yeah, you can do whatever you like. We're just bored with hearing you talk about it." And I said, "Well, why didn't you send me this course? Why didn't?" And they went, "Well, you could have looked. If you wanted to do evidential, it was up to you to make that happen, not for us to bring it to you. That's not how it works." And it was such an eye-opening experience. And now, as you guys know, evidential has been the biggest part of my journey, the thing that I have focused on, the thing that I really adore. I mean, I love spirit guides too. Who am I kidding? I love it all. And so learn from my mistake, guys. Learn from me sitting there, waiting, weeping, wishing, hoping, but never actually booking myself on a course. What? It's so nuts to say it out loud. And so that's what I mean about that idea that we all have, that if it's meant for us, spirit will do it. Like we just are. Have you seen, Wall-E, the Disney film? Are we just like the people that are carried around on transporters, just guided to where we need to go with no effort, no energy? Is that how we view ourselves? Is that how we think spirit view us, that we just float around and they do it all? Or do we feel like it's a partnership? And if we say, I want to be a medium, I really want to be a medium, and we step up and we sign up, that spirit will bring the experiences we need, not all of them comfortable, to help us be that. But we have to meet them on the path, not just sit at the start and wait for it all. And if you decide that you want to change your journey and you've studied spirit guides and then you want to do evidential, don't say spirit told me I was going to become an evidential medium. If they didn't, which I'm surprised if they did because of free will and choice, allow yourself to say, I wanted to do it. I wanted to be an evidential medium. When people say to me, you're really lucky, I think, I've worked so hard for this. I don't feel that luck has been a big part of it. I wrote my book. I got rejected from every single publisher I sent that book to. Everybody told me it wasn't good enough and it was a flooded marketplace. Everybody. And it's just lucky that I didn't listen. And actually that I used those rejections to work in my favour, where I thought, right, I will prove it to you. And my book is doing really well. It's been in the bestseller in spirit communication since January. It goes in and out, but every month it's hit that number one spot. But it's hit that number one spot because I've paid for advertising. Not because spirit have gold stamps and ordained my book with magicalness, but because I have done courses where I have been taught how to run Facebook ads, and now I run Facebook ads. And I just find this whole mentality thing of expecting to coast. And I know I'm a Capricorn, so I would, but I just find it weird. I do. And then I find it weird that people who are coasting, who are expecting spirit to bring it, are annoyed with me that I'm more successful when I'm investing huge amounts of money in myself and my business every month. So I just wanted to say that because as much as I love doing spiritual assessments, and I do, they're one of my favourite things to do because you're sitting in someone's potential. I also don't want you paying for a spiritual assessment to just be told you are the driver of your own car. Why are you standing beside it with the engine running and not putting it in gear and moving off? I don't feel like that is a valuable use of your money and your time. So really look at it. If you would just allow yourself to do what you wanted to do without needing a rubber stamp or permission from spirit, what would you be doing? What would you be making happen for you? Why do you believe that you need to just let things happen to you? I don't know. Anyway, that went on a bit long time, didn't it? I was right on ready to start doing listener questions, and I just yabbed for 20 minutes. It's because I had a big breakfast this morning. I've got a lot to say. So let's go straight to a WhatsApp anonymous message that I got in February. I don't think I've answered it, though. Shame. Where she says, "Hello, Hannah. I'm a big fan of your podcast. I've got a question for your Q&A sessions. When I connect to spirit, I always get lots of random names, even when I think I've firmed up my boundaries, made my intention, and asked my gatekeeper to keep the door closed on any randoms. The names that I get aren't relevant to the sitter, or so they think. I think I'm focusing too much on getting a name and should just stick to what I feel, see, and know. What are your thoughts on this?" I have so many thoughts on this. Now, names. Funny enough, I was talking to the Me, Myself and Spirit students last night about names, because names are always funny to me, because we talk about names. We want to get names. Names. I've just given names as a perfect example of a great bit of mediumship from my friend. But when I have watched mediums, and I've watched a lot of mediums, more often than not, when they get a name, it's, they're communicating with somebody's dad and they'll get a name and the sitter says, oh, that's my mum's second cousin. And they'll be like, yes, well, that's the name. Why? Why would somebody's dad bring in a name of somebody that isn't even related to them? Why would they? Doesn't make any sense to me. I've heard mediums say things from the stage like, it might be the name of somebody that serves you in Tesco, keep your eyes open. Why? Why would my grandmother come in and give a name that is somebody that's going to serve me in Tesco next week? What? If she could give a name, why wouldn't she give her own name? And so names are complicated because, first of all, you can only receive through the resource of you. So it needs to be a name that you're aware of. For example, we get a lot of Sarahs, Daves, Lauras, Janes in the UK. They're easy names. Steves, Michaels, easy peasy wheezy. In fact, if you said, I've got the name David, could you understand a connection with the name David? To probably most people in the UK, they'd be able to take that in some format. If you're dealing with somebody from another country, that's when it gets interesting, because if you have never come across the names, it's going to be harder for you to receive them. And so I've been working on my names. I'm still working on my names. They are by no means perfect. But one of the things I always said to Spirit was, I only want a name if it's relevant. I don't want to force a name. And so this is the problem. If you think about the valves, all of your energy is made of thousands of little valves, and you decide that you want a name, then every other valve that's anything but the name valve will close. So you are forcing your mediumship to give you a name. And therefore, because you're forcing it, you are no longer in mediumship, you're actually in psychic. And that's when you can get things wrong. I'm going to explain that again because that's a really big concept I've just thrown out there. But you have to understand psychic is seeking. If you think of it like a directional arrow, when you are looking for something, you are working psychically. All spirit links that we do start psychically because you're looking for the spirit. So you are reaching. But what you want to do is move that into receiving. So if you think of seeking as an arrow coming out of you, receiving is an arrow coming into you, where you are allowing that flow with the spirit. And so if you are receiving, then spirit know the best bits of evidence that you are able to bring and that you are able to receive. They will, of course, give you a name if you're open to receiving it and if it's relevant. But if you are insisting on a name, that's when your brain is going to suddenly kick in and start giving you names just to fill that space because you've actually turned off your mediumship in the seek. Does that make sense? So names are good until they're not good, if you know what I mean. And for me, this is basically what I was talking to my students about last night. I think we also have to decide what kind of medium we want to be. And there are some mediums that really just want to do facts, and there's nothing wrong with that. But for me, I want to reunite people with their loved ones. I want them to know that the relationship has changed, but the love remains the same. I want to heal old wounds. I want them to feel comforted. I want them to feel safe in the knowledge that their loved ones are still with them. And a name is a good bit of evidence, but it's not the only bit of evidence. And I know that spirit will bring through me whatever I'm able to receive through my limitations. I just want to add in as well, I'm not sure about gatekeepers. I think that's a very human experience. I think you're your own gatekeeper. You land on whoever you land on because all the spirits are here. You get whatever you are open to receiving, and that's nothing to do with the gatekeeper. That's to do with you and how you've expanded your knowledge base, because Everything that you receive from spirit is through your own knowledge, your memories, the facts you know, the stories you've been told, the things you've watched on TV, the experiences you've had. You cannot receive something you are completely unaware of. If you had somebody that lived miles and miles away and had never heard of or seen the ocean, they would not be able to receive it. Now, if they'd seen it on TV, they'd be able to receive it. If they'd seen a picture of the ocean in a book, they'd be able to receive it. But if they were completely unaware that the ocean existed, when they went to do mediumship, they might think it's a lake because they're receiving water and their brain is creating the nearest image, the nearest thing to it, the nearest match. And so this can be the problem with names. If you're insisting on a name and you are getting Sarah, but they're actually a Sarah, and your sitter will say no, but it could just be that you're receiving through your own limitations, really, because you're insisting on getting a name. So to answer your question in the longest possible way, don't force it. Set the intention. Ask spirit. You don't have to ask a gatekeeper, just ask your spirit team. And intention setting, I think, is just an instruction to yourself. Spirit don't need instructions. They're way more clever than us. Just have that thought of, I'll have a name, please, if it's possible, and then just allow. And if a name comes in, give it. But if you're looking for it, know that you're getting in the way of the process. And that, I know, is one of the most frustrating things about working with spirit. But it's true. So what are you going to do? Hope this helps. Sorry for the 8-month delay. Next up, I have another question from lovely Binky.
Hi, Hannah. It's Binky. I hope this makes sense. I've not fully thought through what I'm going to say, but I'm just listening to your podcast of listener questions, and there was Cheryl's question about why Spirit don't give us full access, or like why we get just a certain amount of limited access to the spirit world here on Earth. And my immediate thought was, because that's just the rules of the universe. Like, you can't bend the rules of physics. Like, spirit are not an all-powerful divine creator. They don't just get to control the world in any way, because nobody does. It's there are laws and rules to the universe that just are, and ultimately we're all a form of energy, and there's rules that dictate how energy can work. Does that make sense? That's kind of what came into my head. And you said for people to feedback their thoughts, so I thought I would share that. So absolutely loving having you back on the airwaves. Yeah, it's great to be listening. Thanks.
Love it, Binky. I wonder, not a question, I misled everybody there, but a really interesting thought process. I think there is something in that. I think there is something in the rules of this dimension where we are not supposed to know for sure. There's something about it being faith-based. There's something about the experience here with all the difficulties and all the darkness, and trying to hold our light and feeling that pull within us and that call within us, but not having anything really to back it up. So, yeah, I agree. I love to think about it, though. And thank you so much for months ago sending me in your thoughts. I promise I try not to leave any man behind, but I often am overwhelmed. So apologies again that it's taken me so long to share your insights. So there we go. That's the time up already. Who can believe it? Hopefully I will be able to record some more at some point. I mean, damn the rules of this dimension, because if I could just bend space and time, everything would be easier. That's for sure. And as a little reminder, guys, if you could please review this, share this podcast, it helps so much, more than you will ever know. I'll be ever so grateful. And I will catch up with you all soon. Have a good one.